everyone, it's Raina. So this video is if you have your sun in Sagittarius and your moon in Libra. And this is a double masculine energy. The reason I talk about masculine versus feminine is because it really can influence how the person behaves overall, regardless of what sign they are. The masculine signs are the fire and air signs, and the feminine are the water and the earth. And when you think about water and earth, you think about things that are in nature that are part of this planet. So they're low to the ground, like there's a tangibility factor there. So for me, the feminine signs tend to focus on the world in terms of practical matters overall, and the fire and air, they're like visionaries and people that are, more abstract because, fire and air are both things that we can't really contain or hold in our hands. And therefore they have this kind of, well, with air, you might say ethereal quality, but in general, kind of this inability to be pinned down. And so there's that love of freedom that can sometimes be the case. Now, this is a little bit different because even though Libra is an air sign and is a masculine sign, I always think of Libra as having feminine influence. Even with men, you can get the metrosexual man who will be more in the mirror than his partner. I'm talking about like a Libra sun sign, for instance, and be really into like having his clothes be on point and, primping, doing things that we would typically see with women, being like overly concerned with his appearance. So I do think because Libra's ruled by Venus that this is where that's going. And also the idea of relationships that Libra represents, being the ruler of the seventh house of committed partnerships. So with this combination of sun and moon, you get kind of like a little bit back and forth where there might be contradictory elements, even though these two signs form a harmonious angle called a sextile, which means that they're 60 degrees apart. This will not be true for all of you technically because you may have an early degree of one and a late degree of the other, and they're not close enough to form a sextile. But they still could, they're still going to be very harmonious from the standpoint of being fire and air. But yeah, I just wanted to bring up that could also form a sextile. I keep going back between calling it sextile and sextile. I don't know which one is. They're both okay. But anyway, I'm going to talk about well, maybe I should talk about the sun. I like to talk about the moon because that can be another influence that pulls you in a different direction. I guess it doesn't matter which one I talk about first. The moon is the emotional nature. The moon is your sense of security. And when I say, by the way, when I say emotional nature, it can be how you express emotions, but your attitude towards emotions. And you might say, well, why would somebody have an attitude towards emotions? Well, air signs really don't, I was going to say don't like emotions, which is not really correct, but you don't like strong emotions. Libra is all about balance and about being gracious. And any emotion that feels inharmonious, like anger, like, and I was going to say like rage, which is a heightened anger, maybe a sense of, even like a sense of shame or of feeling frustrated, you want to convey this idea that everything is okay. And that is good if you work as a PR person for someone who's controversial. That would be very good because you can kind of smooth things over. But when it comes to your own life and your own relationships, you have to, be authentic if you want the other person to really understand you and be able to bond emotionally with another person. If you're just living on the surface of life, you can kind of get away with your charm because you do have a lot of charm. But this combination can create a bit of a push-pull because Sagittarius loves freedom and Libra loves relationships. So that can be a little bit hairy sometimes. You may find that even though these are harmonious signs, that you feel like you're at cross purposes. And this can extend to other areas of life. I was thinking about this earlier, like knowing that I was going to do this video, because Sagittarius, which happens to be my sun sign, it can be very blunt, can, offend people sometimes due to that straightforward type of communication style. And Libra is the born diplomat, is the person who wants to always be gracious and non-controversial. Well, that's not what life is about. You can't always have that kind of scenario where you can just kind of dance around an issue. Sometimes you have to be straightforward, and this, but emotionally it may be hard for you to do it 100% of the time. So it might be that sometimes you go from one extreme to the other. You're very straightforward, and then you get blowback, and then you try to kind of make nice about it, and then veer too much in the other direction of, maybe saying what other people want to hear, or just simply trying to cover for something else you've said that you really meant, but you didn't expect to get a lot of criticism about. And so it turns out that you have to you feel like you're going from one extreme to the other. And the same thing with even deciding whether or not you want to be in a relationship with somebody and commit to them. That love of freedom is fighting against this love of being in a partnership. And these two signs are, because they're 60 degrees from one another, what is lodged in the middle of those two signs? Scorpio. And that means that you may have inner planets in Scorpio as a sun in Sagittarius. You might have some in, you could have it in Aquarius or Capricorn as well. But I'm saying with the Scorpio, that can, tilt the balance or tip the balance in a direction that is much more about commitment and even, this intensity that comes from wanting to bond with somebody at the deepest level. So it depends. I mean, if you have like I do, Venus and Aquarius, and you might have Mars in Aquarius in some cases, you may be more detached. And that can make you less likely to be the typical moon in Libra. So you have to factor in those influences as well. In terms of how you express emotion as a Libra, well, as I've stated, you probably want to be very even in your reactions. Because really, I see the moon as reactions. To me, that's what emotions are. We have something occur, or the thing that occurs could be like we hear a song that really moves us, and then we have an emotional response. So there's that reactivity. So with Libra, as with all air signs, there is a detachment there that is actually a very good thing. I think that people who have their moon in air really have a bit of a leg up on other people. Maybe those with the moon in earth, I could say that as well. But there's like, with Libra, there's a real sense of fairness. And also that love of balance. So typically you will be more able to kind of like see different sides of an issue if something is upsetting you, and not just completely go whole hog and get too riled up about it. But, because I would say like with Sag people can sometimes get very fiery with their anger. Even when I think Sag people tend to be like indignant about things that feel like a breach of ethics, like the bigger picture kind of things. But yeah, so I feel like this can be something where, let's just call this a harmonious angle in general. And that means that your ambitions and your sense of what makes you feel safe, what makes you feel, you know, good emotionally about what it is that you're doing are in alignment. And when people have hard angles between the sun and moon, for instance, I have a square, there can be this conflict where the person wants to do certain things, but there's something that feels like it's blocking that. And it could be that the person, what they want to do, they don't feel that it's going to produce the kind of financial stability that they feel that they need to be able to just function on a day-to-day basis, for instance. And so it can create a lot of frustration because a person may be like, but this is what I really want to do, and you're telling me I can't do what I want to do. And it's not so much that the person is ambivalent about what it is that they have, this sense of being their dream type of thing that they would really want to do in life, but it just doesn't really go along with their security needs. And by the way, the moon can be the mother, so maybe there are some conflicts with that, especially through the way that she raised the person, that make them, in some cases, especially with the hard angles, feel that they have, that what their mother wanted for them is not what they want for themselves. But in your case, there is that harmony. Now, speaking of the mother, though, your mother could exhibit those Libra qualities, and that's what you kind of emulate. So with that being said, there might be some issues surrounding appearance. If you have been the kind of person who has, maybe been a little bit too tough on yourself in terms of how you look, your emotional state can certainly exacerbate those issues. Some women have this feeling that they're never going to have or keep a relationship, and they think that by looking a certain way, they can secure that relationship. And I think that, it goes without saying, for me, that I think that that is faulty reasoning. And I wouldn't say that all of you would be like that, but there might have been something with the mother that accentuated the physical appearance, but in a neurotic way. And you may have absorbed some of those influences without even knowing it. And same with being attached to relationships, a relationship addict. And when I say addict, I mean, really what I'm saying is like sometimes a person will be in a relationship, and then if the relationship isn't working out, they may decide to have somebody waiting in the wings. So the serial monogamist may be like true to one person, but they always seem to have a spare. They always seem to have this relationship waiting for them, and they don't want to be alone. This combination can be quite extroverted. Look to your ascendant to see more information about this, because what if the sun is in the 12th house? That could mean that the person is very comfortable being alone, and they actually are very introverted and don't like social situations all that much, which would be kind of atypical for Sages. But as a sun in Sag myself, I am introverted too. So I'm definitely like that, and I don't even have the sun in the 12th house. You don't have to have it. I'm just saying that could be another influence. So it's basically like, are you the truth teller, telling the truth at any cost, or are you the diplomat? And does it tend to depend upon the circumstance? And another thing too is when we talk about like careers, like what kind of careers this combination might produce, one of them that I could see would be the educational field, because Sag is intellectual, and so is Libra through being an air sign. Sagittarius rules the 9th house, which is the house of higher education or college, university, whatever you want to call it. So it could specifically be about that kind of more sophisticated knowledge, and Libra, I believe, would align with that very well. Another field might be entertainment. Again, Libra is ruled by Venus, and the moon can be your creative juices flowing. Like, what kind of creativity do you produce? Are you a moon sign that is very geared towards creative output? You want to look at what house your moon is in, and your sun, for all of these things that I'm talking about. It's good to look at where the planets reside in the chart, because that will give you information as well. The natal chart is like layers of an onion, and you can be very broad about it, and then you can go deeper and deeper. So, but in this particular reading, obviously, I can't talk about house placement. I can only speculate. And so I think this combination would be talented in many different things. Oh, a big one would be the law. Libra specifically is a sign because it rules. Well, actually, both of these signs rule houses that have the law as one of their attributes or key words. I believe that the way we differentiate between them is that the 7th house has to do with legal matters themselves, maybe the courtroom action, and maybe the legal decision. And the ninth house is the law itself. So if somebody, let's say somebody has a sun in the ninth house, they might want to become a lawyer. Or you could say maybe a paralegal, something along those lines, a judge. And the seventh house, the sun there might also indicate somebody who would be interested in those fields. The sun can be your career, or Saturn maybe, I suppose. Or maybe that the person has a tendency to get involved in matters that require legal actions for whatever reason. But the ninth house as the law itself, I would specifically think of somebody who is studying the law. And I could even see like a yoga teacher, because Sagittarius is connected to spiritual matters, especially like philosophical systems, which all organized religions have their own dogma, their own belief systems, and that's aligned with Sagittarius. And then with Libra, there is that desire for balance. So becoming a yoga teacher, somebody along, so rather than like maybe an aerobics instructor, if you were going to be doing something physical, it could be that, or, a meditation teacher, I suppose that could be it as well. In terms of love, well, I've already touched upon that. There might be this, I don't know if you'd call it ambivalence or extreme attitude when it comes to love. Maybe when you're younger, you're more, and when I say younger, I mean when you haven't really found yourself yet, you might be more emotionally dependent. And I shouldn't say that, because your emotional nature isn't something that you grow out of. It is something, of course, that you can evolve from. But I maybe rather than talk about age-related things, I would say that if you become more conscious after having a number of relationships, that if they don't go the way that you want them to, that you might realize that you need to become more independent if you haven't already. And because I feel like the moon in Libra sometimes can lead to codependency. And that means that you get involved with someone and you lose yourself in their life. And, you start to worry about their problems, more about caring more about your own life and your, the direction you want to go in. So being aware of that and not allowing that to derail you can be a very good thing. And I think that if you do experience that when you're younger, as you get older, you will gravitate more towards what Sagittarius represents. I think it's entirely possible for this combination to find true love, because you're open to it. And with the Sagittarius energy, I feel like you value honesty and, just authenticity. So you may find that person who exemplifies that, and that can be perfect for you. If you have found thus far that you haven't been able to do so, then it may be time. Maybe it's a situation where you're not standing on your own 2 feet enough, and you're trying to just like avoid being alone, because I think Libra in particular is a very social sign. Both of these signs are extroverted, but I think that Libra is especially inclined because it does rule that house of partnership. One thing I want to make note of is that your rising sign really should be looked at as well, because you may have a rising sign that kind of indicates shyness, Like if your rising sign is Cancer or Virgo or maybe Taurus, there might be certain signs, Pisces, which kind of make you feel inhibited and less willing to put yourself out there with others. You kind of hang back a little bit. This can interfere sometimes in being able to mingle and be able to find that special someone, because you may be afraid to even put yourself in social situations, especially nowadays. The unfortunate thing about our society these days, or at least in the Western world, is that there is so much emphasis on individuality that people tend to keep to themselves and find it hard to even make friends in adulthood, that are new friends that they haven't met in childhood or in college. So I, you know, I'm trying to think, like, I've never gone to any of these meetup groups, but if they still exist, ever since the shutdown, if they have continued to operate, that is probably one of the best places that you might be able to find somebody if you're actually joining the group because you're interested in what it's all about. So I don't know if they have these around the world, but from what I understand, in the United States, they have something called meetup.com, and people, choose the kind of activities that they're interested in, and they more than likely have a group based on that interest. And the good thing about that is that you're meeting people with whom you already have something in common, and that can be, that's always helpful, because you at least have something that you're both passionate about. And Sagittarius love to have something that they're passionate about. So I think that that's really wonderful. Okay, well, that's what I have for you. I hope that this resonated. And if you would like a private reading, the link is below. Take care. Bye.